Hello everyone, this is Cookies. I've got turn 75. We've got a few messages and way fewer battles than normal. So I'm curious if maybe we got some diplomatic developments. Maybe a peace agreement between Agartha and Yes. Bit of a disappointing haul. Down to 28 pearls this turn, although not terribly surprising. Yeah, I thought it was more like 30. I think I said 30 to 40 last time. Although not terribly surprising if the income is in waves as players accumulate and spend on big gems, big summons, or items. I think if you see it down at like 28, I think that means they're pooling for a dispel. Looking more likely a dispel isn't coming, so that will be big. Was really expecting to crack Agartha's fort this turn, but no luck. Maybe some summons inside. Yeah, and Agartha with gateway access can really pile in a lot of stuff. So especially Defenders of the Hall, which I think in a castle defense bonus. So yeah, I could see it being very hard to take a fort off of Agartha in this position. A little more time to write. I never napped Agartha after our armistice, which ran out a long time ago. When I saw them siege his throne, I figured this is probably the worst chance he has to defend his throne. We're going to fight eventually, and there's only 15 turns left in the game. Expected to crack the throne this turn, so it's likely he's summoning Draconians inside to defend. I don't know that it's just Draconians. I don't think you can make that assumption. I also see his Archmage nearby. Not sure what he has planned. All right, so in this position, as Pythium, you have to do something and hope it's not domed. Which it probably isn't because it's a throne and Agartha probably wants to be able to gateway in. You have to do an astral window on that fort so that you get a better idea of what's inside because you'll be able to see that, at least what's holding up the walls, because you'll get that accurate scouting report if you scry on it. All right, my tactics aren't too sophisticated, which is a little scary, but hopefully the units he has to defend the fort are bad. I'm using an air mage to protect against earthquake, also bringing in fire fend and cold fend casters. Offensively, hope some combination of Emerald Guard, Draconians, and a few Angels, along with Will of the Fates and Light of the Northern Star, to Soul Slay is enough to shut things down. Oh, what else could Agartha do? That seems pretty good, but at some point you also have to kill everything. And Agartha might just have better troops, and you can't steal or soul slay. Well, I think you can potentially steal sentinels. Although maybe not with enslaved mind, you might have to do. I think there's a different spell that steals them. But yeah, sentinels could be really difficult. In my mind, I would have really liked to have seen Pythium have master and slave here to try and steal stuff, but we'll see what ends up happening. I'm also concerned that Pythium just doesn't have enough stuff. Uh, okay. Then we got Agartha. What an absolute disaster of a turn. Besides ending me as an air power for the rest of the game, losing that Queen of Air, I was one bad morale roll on my Banefire King from losing everything. To address the Air Queen first, it was the clearest demonstration. Oh my gosh. Really being hard on yourself here. Clearest demonstration of being a ship player I may have had all game. Strategically, it was a poor choice to even fight. Tactically, I made the poor decision to not bring more mages out from the throne. And order-wise, I can only think I somehow forgot to script cast. Yeah, the attack rear was definitely a scripting mistake. It's over 120 gems down the drain, and the entire high end of air magic removed from my options to accomplish nothing. It would take me 8 turns just to gather the gems needed to get another air queen, even if I used not a single other air gem for anything else. Yeah, so for really big investments like this, honestly, I really like the idea of just having that ring of returning. Like, yeah, it may suck having them get sent home early, but to me, just having that extra layer of protection matters so much more. And then all you need to do is personal misform, and you can get Ring of Returning sent home. You can add some armor or something to also try and help, but as long as you get the personal misform in, you're in pretty good shape. And so, yeah, you can get cheesed a bit with that Ring of Returning, but it, in my opinion, it really does lower the risk. The Fort Storm showed again how BS the Timmy Lich is. Clearly, it can get enough from Hal to stay in the fight until sunset. The actual losses were acceptable, none of my leaders died, but the risk was not. Infinite wailing winds means everything not mindless will rout eventually. Yeah, so I guess the way he can protect against that is he can have a golem and the sentinels as like a core of the army, because then that gives magic leadership and mindless chassis for both with 50 morale. And then everything else could potentially run away if it needs to. All right. Infinite Wailing Winds means, yeah, my Banefire King was almost immune, but almost is not enough when the minuscule chance of failure means losing all of my statues. I can think of only 2 counters, both of which I'm going to be stopping to implement before I press on a throne. First is to get a Golem. Okay. Mindless Leader and Soul Slayer. Second, I can try and get mindless units who can hunt down the Demi-Lich faster than it can recover fatigue. Okay, the only one I can see is the Iron Dragon. Also, if you just have an Air Mage, you can buff Flight on something like Sentinels. And I think the one he's forgetting about is maybe Acts of Hate Thugs. Each one is costing me, which is at least from, how the mentors that I've had for this game, like that's the traditional counter that they've always told me about. All right, each one is costing me the equivalent of about 18 statues, though. In the meantime, I'm going to build a doom stack to get Pythium off my throne. I am gatewaying all of the statues from my main army and my magma children and olms from my capital to the forest fort next to the throne. Oh, next to it, not into it. Interesting. And summoning a fairy queen, so I have nature casting there. Next turn, Pythium can either pull back or offer battle on the fort. I'm good with either result. I'm also trying to PD dump with support to hold on the Nabah front. I'm dropping over 1,000 gold to try and buy 2 very good merc companies. One for the main army and one at Nabah to hopefully push that front outwards. My plan for the Demi-Lich this turn is to hopefully bait him. I cracked an unimportant fort on the shoreline this turn. I'm not going to storm it. I just lose if the Lich defends it. I'm hoping the Lich goes to defend and wastes the turn there. How is this Lich always getting Feeble Mind knocked off? Do they have like a Mending Bones thing in there, Bless? I'll have to check. I didn't think so. Or maybe a Necromancer? Funny how things cascade sometimes. Immortal's not responding from Dome Deaths. Oh, interesting. A Dome Death equals losing a turn of research to call God. Dome Death? Oh, like it got hit by like a fire dome? losing to Call God, being one turn short on Meteor Shower to defend that fort from Sentinels. Off-script Wind of Death instead of Bone Grinding didn't help. Oh, it was off-script. Okay. But that's a player skill issue. I didn't test the interaction under the casting mod versus vanilla. Not my first unforced error due to lack of testing, time, version confusion. Cursed game for me overall. I've been so unreasonably behind on research from turn one and just haven't been able to navigate around that disadvantage. Building most of my siege strength plans around assumed air access, display bug for princess land shape since fixed, and assumptions of Yessian drones being available on land, still incorrect in Inspector, didn't help, but either of those would have been caught if I drafted a nation I'd played before or was familiar with, rather than falling for the hype of unexpected availability and other folks' opinions of power levels. I think I won this game handily on Naba or Agartha or a half dozen underland nations, but that's not how this works. Still frustrating though. To the extent that I have an out, I'm stalling on my coastlines with Murdering Winter plus Stimulant drops and playing for the turn 90 throne count. There are many, many reasons why that is extremely unlikely to work, but it's also the only shot I've got, so no reason not to focus energies in that direction. Okay. I think there's a lot of good information in these messages this turn. Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and hop into the battles, I guess. All right, so we've got the projection of the Kitsune hero again. And then another Wind of Death trap. Not a lot home, though. Yeah, just catches PD, which is odd for a magic phase attack. Maybe stuff was stealthy and stealthed away. Or maybe there was bad intel or misclick. All right, we have Phantasm or Illusory Attack. Sorry, I keep wanting to call it Phantasmal Army. I think this is 2 casts. It got buffed coming out of Dominions 5. Yeah, it's pretty gem pricey, but it does clear this whole Garthan troop, which I think is the one that got hit last time. Alright, kills 44 defenders of the hall, and they do indeed have a castle defense bonus for 1.3 siege defense. Alright, and then in Witch Haven, we got the Smasher Golem. Ooh, who did find Pythium's Golem. This is the Quickness Golem. Alright. So obviously I think Shinyama's Golem is gonna win here. Let's see if Pythium can beat expectations here. The shaman, I mean, it's a scout. It doesn't matter. Let's see. Well, it didn't die in one hit, but it also did not enjoy it. Took 14, 19, and 17 points of damage. Deals 10 in return. Oh, Twist Fate got the first one. Okay. And then gets walloped again. Is down to 54 HP. So loses another 17 and 19 hit points. Alright. No afflictions, at least in this replay, for the Shinyama Golem. And that's a really solid kill on Pythium. That's a very expensive golem. So, alright. Then in New Coast, ooh, we got a mono drop, also on Pythium. Some air alleys. So this thing is stunned, but it's got an 8 caster, which I believe means it can still keep casting, so it's going to keep running through its magic duel. And Fist of Iron. So what you would want to see from the Pythium Communion is Soul Slay, but I think so many of the mages got magic dueled. Yeah, we had 3 of them get magic dueled. One was an Arch Theurg. Then we had 2 Theurgs, which were probably Communion slaves. Or maybe there wasn't a Communion? But yeah, this guy needs to be doing Soul Slay. And they're not going to have a ton of time to try and finish this. It's only got 19 MR, even with the Amulet of Anti-Magic. Did it do... Yeah, it didn't... Because of the magic duels, it didn't do resist magic in its script. So it was very much doable. But I think the Pythium Force has given up. Okay, it does kill the Archtheurg, 2 regular Theurgs, and the Serpent Cataphracts. Successful drop. In Chaldeer, got some Earth Mages. This is a fair amount of PD. Looks like a small contingent of regular troops, maybe. But, I mean, what ones certainly are not the best troops. They have very low attack scores. Alright, Nagartha bounces off of the extra PD that was put in. What was that? That was here. 55 wet ones at 9 gold. That might have been the Merc Company, though. I really don't see players recruiting a bunch of wild ones, generally. And then 18 Defenders of the Hall. 2 Golem Crafters go down. They're in Farseer Mountains. Another little batch of troops. Just killing some PD. Borsia, or Borgia. 2 Spectral Mages. Let's take a look at these. Looks like some Skelly spam and maybe some point buffing. Okay. Oh, that was Borgia. And then we have Copper Woods. A little bit more thugging. White Mage rolls out with no gear. Oh, because it's blind. Okay, so it's just gonna try and rely on buffs and spell casting, probably. And that does indeed work. Oof in red. Mound Fiend Thug continues to run around. We have a small Shade Beast and Hunter Spider group from Machaka. I'm curious if they're getting an Earth buff. It's Earth 2? Just Gift of Giant Strength? Okay. Vocan. Oh, I don't know that I like this play from Pythium. Like, I realize they're probably just trying to clear it, so they've got this diseased Leper King Sino Shaman. I don't know if they were supposed to show up with a bunch of undead. Maybe he's trying to disease one of the bogus crew. Oh no, it's on the Merc. Never mind. But so I guess we got some Barkskin spam. But there's no one here to actually bless all these expensive mercs. And also, I think as Pythium at this stage in the game, you should be thinking about stealing the bogus crew, not killing it. Unless they're just trying to kill off the merc company so it can't be used against them. Yeah, you don't get to keep any of this gear, probably. You have to hope this one guy picks up whatever he picks up. Should at least have a few commanders. Yeah, I don't know that I like that one. Where was that? That was Focan? Yeah. Alright, Emirius. Alright, we've got an Archangel. It's got some gear now. No gems still. And then we've got some Angels of the Host still. They're gonna try and clear out this PD. Should be pretty easy for them. But they're cool units, so we'll watch it. Okay. What was that? That was Mirius and Gold Crags. Got a Lar. So if the returns last turn, because they sent the we received the message this turn, which means they sent the message last turn, and last turn the returns were low. I think this turn we checked to see if maybe a Dispel went off. Okay. In Druidland, Hunters killing PD. Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen like one of the expansion parties from Menchaca, basically. Ooh, we get to see the Yes Army in Gray Barrier. What all is in this? Many GSS thugs. Increased prot. Any heroes? Or are they all killed off at this point? Got this one with increased MR. 19 MR is pretty nice. Put an Amulet of Anti-Magic on this one. You can get it up to like 23 MR. It starts getting pretty difficult to deal with. Cool. Alright. Then Ulstenstad. A little draconian raid, I guess. Not a huge fan of risking the draconian chief on a throwaway raid. But I understand it's a flyer, and flying commanders can be tough to get a hold of. But yeah, it runs into fairly significant Machaka force. Just nature gems though, mostly just relying on And the sorcerers doing whatever they think is best. Cool. Alright. Then a thing from the void. Probably attacking a lantern holder. Nope. Doesn't even have a horror mark. Still gets attacked. Just unlucky. Okay. Then Spire Woods. Ooh. Got a Satyr raid. And it looks like that's going to actually knock off PD. Okay. So I think the caves are pretty quiet again. Things are starting to focus more around the thrones. So you can see all the stuff that gatewayed in. The fort is now cracked. So things did not gateway into Banded Hills. They gatewayed in next to Banded Hills. However, maybe this is fortunate for Agartha, Pythium did not put Silver Grove under siege or Loreborough under siege as part of their efforts to isolate Banded Hills to help, maybe the siege be a little bit more successful. Because if you put these under siege, then they have to sally, and that means anything that landed in them can't really help here without doing another gateway hop. So, and that comes back to just Pythium not having a ton of stuff anymore. They don't have the manpower to raid around here and isolate this fort properly. But other than that, we've got, I guess, some angels raiding down into Shinu's cap circle. And then Machaka just mono dropping straight into Pythium's cap circle, I guess. It's interesting. I wonder if they had some intel or if they just had a scout here. Shinyama, meanwhile, has cracked Glen of Iron, which I think puts Pythium in a pretty dangerous situation. Once Shinyama retakes Glen of Iron, it was originally theirs, I'm pretty sure. That allows them to put pressure on Feral Woods and start walking down the forts, but it also gives them a run-by where they can raid into Farseer and then get into Pythium's heartland. So this, I think, is pretty dangerous, especially after Pythium just lost Tyrannea to Shinyama as well. To me, it's really starting to look like Shinyama is starting to win this war, because Pythium's getting pulled in so many different directions, like losing stuff to Machaka, and Machaka's re-expanding. They've retaken their core region, and maybe they're thinking about pushing into, maybe even threatening thrones, pushing into these border regions. So they're starting to build up troops again. And it's also hurting Pythium's income. You can see the failed raid on Vokan, but Pythium's trying to retake some territory. They just don't have as much stuff left anymore unless it's a thug. So they've got these angels, they've got this mound fiend, they've got, well, they had a golem, but that's dead now. That's because their armies haven't found an answer to getting mono dropped, demi-lich dropped, just absolutely destroyed piecemeal. Or Wind of Death dropped, rather. I'm not sure if they've gotten demi dropped. But, alright. And then on the Agartha side, let's see, Agartha, or I guess, oh, they patrolled out a couple of scouts. Okay. So Yis does a pretty large raid into Grey Barrier. And it looks like they're pulling back from Kunal. So maybe there's enough. If you put enough defenders in there, you can probably make it so that Yis can't even crack the fort. And I don't know what you do at that point. Is that really War Shamblers? Is this like having the shipwreckers just hanging out here? Yeah, so I think yes is starting to give up on their dreams of the Iron Throne. They can't they can't take all these summons on land. So, and then Agartha is slowly but surely ripping their coastline away. And if Agartha gets their hands on Valrest, then that's gonna be make things much more difficult for Yes. So I'm not entirely against them trying to shore up their defenses rather than trying to strike deep and try and take a fort off Agartha. They just don't have the siege power or the numbers at the moment. In terms of amphibious that can go on land. But yeah, it's looking like this is going to be our big showdown next turn. And then, yeah, I think that's it. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at provinces. Machaca continuing to come back from the grave. And then, yeah, we've got our big four. In terms of forts, Agartha is still very much ahead. Pythium, Shinyama, and Yes are all tied now, which is pretty cool. For income, they're all in a range, which is also pretty cool. With Machaca and Yes both increasing their share of the income, which I find pretty funny. The smaller two players gaining more land, or more income at least. Gem income, Pythium's shot up more a bit this turn. So maybe it wasn't dispelled. Pythium and Shinyama are starting to cross again in tech. Pythium mobilizing a bunch of mages, Shinyama getting a bunch of research in. And then, let's see, we've got the Dominion up here. Army size is still very much in Agartha's court, which is crazy to me that they've lost so many armies in this journey. I mean, each one of these is an army loss, sometimes multiple armies, and they're still always just building more armies. So, but we do see a lot of production from Shinyama and Pythium this turn. We'll see next turn how it looks when Agartha and Pythium have their showdown. Cool. And I think that's it for this turn, so I'll leave you guys on the cliffhanger. And we'll see you guys next turn in turn 76. Have a good one. Oh, wait. And here's the global list. So Nexus is still up. Cool. Have a good one. Bye.